I know you wanted to talk about the F words,
Okay.
but I don't know what the F words are. So I'd love to hear it from you, sort of, what you're thinking about that.
Just to kind of guide you as to where this could go, I think one of the most important F words that never gets talked about in sport is feelings. We're told to fake it. So that means we're not allowed to have fear. In all of the work that I do with athletes, this inability or just lack of tools to know what to do with how they feel is one of the biggest inhibitors to performance. So that's kind of where, so I use fake. It doesn't matter what order, but feelings is the number one because we're taught to fake it. We're not allowed to have fear, which is so ridiculous. And then I teach the opposite. I teach we need to have all these feelings. We need to listen to them because feelings bring information. And when we learn that feelings are normal, we can forgive ourselves. There's another F word. We can forgive ourselves when we get a result that we don't want and all of the feelings that come with that. And when I really think this is, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, I think being able to face our feelings instead of avoiding them is one of the most important mental toughness tools. So wherever that takes us, I can meander along many paths.
Let's put that in context. I'm a former professional baseball player. I had lots of feelings. I had lots of fears, and those hindered me because I didn't understand how to use them properly. If you were working with me or an athlete to feel like me, like how would we go about kind of using them for good rather than for evil?
Well, I believe that our body can't talk to us with words. So it uses feelings to get our attention. If we don't listen, what I believe is we give our body the message that those feelings are bad. Don't have them. And if you do have them, don't listen to them, push them away, shove them under the carpet. There, fixed. And we know damn well it works the exact opposite because social psychologists teach us what you resist persists. And the more that we try to avoid them and push them down, our body turns the volume up. And so what if we did the opposite? Instead of avoiding, what if we faced them? What if we listened to them? And what if we learned to name them? What if we stopped judging them? What if we stopped putting them in a bucket? These are the good ones. You're allowed to have these. These are the bad ones. Don't have these. Like, don't you think that is the opposite of emotional intelligence? So what's the benefit when we listen? Well, there are many, but number one is increasing emotional intelligence and self-awareness. I think those are the foundation for us to step into our greatest self. We better face our feelings.
Mm. So how can an athlete listening in who has practice tonight or has a game tomorrow, who's going to strike out or going to make a bad pass or going to miss a shot, how can we actually put some of these tools or any tools into practice?
Well, I was just working with an athlete the other day, and so many athletes come in with me and they're like, can you help me stop feeling nervous?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. No, I can't. Oh, yes, I can. Don't care. Don't give a crap. There, fixed it.
Yeah.
When you don't care, you're likely not going to be nervous. So what if we said nerves are just showing me that something important is getting ready to happen? Nerves they're getting my attention. And what if we were able to say nerves are normal instead of nerves are bad? Because that's why we avoid them. We're taught to judge them. We're said it's a bad thing. What if we instead did this? What I teach is name it to tame it. So what if we got in tune with what's going? It's like, holy crap, I feel nervous right now. Oh, and then you go, oh, good to know. So right away, I bring it into normalcy. Oh, this is a normal feeling, something important that I care about, and the outcome is unknown. All of these things are going to cause some nerves. If we name it, so number one, naming it's the opposite of avoiding it. So when we name it, it helps tame it. So what if we went name it, shift it, choose it? So I showed you how to name it. Then what if we did this? So we went nerves are, oh, wow, I feel nervous. Holy crap. Yeah, no wonder. This is a big deal. I'm getting ready to, I'm going up to bat in the bottom of the ninth. I'm standing on the free throw line with 3 seconds left. Like all of these big moments, and they don't even have to be that big to cause nerves, even the small moments. And then what if we could shift it? Because I believe that we can't control our feelings, but we do get to have some say over our thoughts. So we named the feeling. And then what if we went shift it?
Mm-hmm.
Shift it means, what else could you think? What could you think that makes you feel strong? And so we go, man, I'm really nervous right now. Holy crap, I'm on the free throw line. I'm at the bat. I have to make the game winning, whatever. And then what if we shifted it? And what I really like is this question to ask ourselves, what else could be true? I'm nervous right now. That is true. That's true. What else could be true? Say I'm standing on the free throw line. It's like, wow, I've practiced this shot hundreds of times. I've been following my training program. So we come in with these thoughts that remind us I'm actually prepared for this moment. And if you're not prepared for the moment, I can't help you with how crappy those nerves are going to feel. And you should feel nervous because you're not prepared. But so many athletes, they actually are prepared, but they forget that they're prepared. They forget that because the voice, I call it the voice of self-doubt, always steals the damn microphone. And it's always talking into the microphone. What if we shift it and we take the microphone away and we give it to the voice of courage? What else can we think? What makes us feel strong? What makes us feel in control? Think about how many things we could shift to rather than saying, I don't want this feeling. It's like, no, I'm having it. And I can think this. Name it, shift it, and then the third one is choose it. Choose it means choose a courageous action. Do you know that it's possible to feel nervous, worried, scared, anxious, unconfident, and choose a courageous action? We don't have to allow the nervous feeling to make us play scared. And that's what often happens. I'm nervous, and now we swing, you know, the swing that's full of hope. That hope is not a strong word, in my opinion, when the game is on the line. So what if we could choose a courageous action, even though we feel nervous? Name it, shift it, choose it.
I wish I got to hear that when I played.
Me
Because
too.
yeah, right? In hindsight, it feels great.
Well, did you have this experience when you played? I know I did. When I had these feelings, and everyone around you can kind of tell you're having them.
Mhm.
And come on, you got this. Oh, you got this. It's going to be okay. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it.
yeah,
Fake it till you make it. Just
yeah.
get out there and be confident. There's a reason that never worked. Did you have that experience?
I had a baseball coach my junior year of high school. Got cut, grounds out to second. I go, it's all right. And coach looks at me and he brings me over and he goes, it's not all right. It's not all right. It stayed with me, right? To like let it go. It's not all right. I need to learn from it. You can be upset. Um, these feelings of like, nervousness and thinking about failure. Like in my professional career, I would think about getting out while I was hitting. How am I going to get out this time? It just was like a rut that I kept putting myself into.
Do you remember a couple minutes ago I talked about how the voice of self-doubt always takes the damn microphone?
Yeah.
Like it speaks all the time.
Yeah.
But nobody ever told me this. You don't have to listen. Or
Yeah.
you can listen and go, okay, voice of self-doubt, you've had your turn. Take the microphone away. Boom. Voice of courage. What do you have to say?
Yeah.
What do you have to say right now? Because we all there is a voice of courage in us. It just sometimes doesn't know how to speak because it gets pushed down by the voice of fear. And no one ever, for me, the voice of fear was speaking all the time. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I tried not to have it, which, as we know, didn't work. I wish someone had just said, you know what? Tell the voice of fear. Okay, voice of fear. I hear you. I hear you. Yep.
Yeah.
I got it. Oh, someone just took the microphone away. You don't get to speak anymore. It's the voice of courage. It's their turn to speak. I didn't know how to do that.
Because we were never trained. So for you, these phrases, this voice of courage, like what does the voice of courage say?
For me, and when I'm coaching clients, everything that I teach them, I practice on myself when I'm out there being an athlete. Use that word loosely these days. The voice of courage. This is what I think. I think our scared self, so that's the voice of fear. But I think every one of us has also, here's our scared self, here's our greatest self. What would our greatest self say right now? What would our greatest self do right now? It's not like we have to be able to, leap from tall buildings and save the world and the whales and all. That doesn't have to be what courage means. But what if we all had a clear view of what would your greatest self say right now in this moment? What would your greatest self do right now in this moment? That's courage. Mm-hmm. And you know what? There's a really great quote, and I don't know where I heard it, but I think it is so awesome. It says this. It says, yeah, got it. Without fear, there can be no courage. It's like, damn. Yeah. If we never feel fearful, how do we practice being courageous? If we never feel nervous, scared, upset, unconfident, how can we ever practice courage? But I don't think that we get taught very well in sport. What is courage? How would courage show up for you right now? We just get told, just go be confident. That's different than what would courage look like for you right now? What would courage sound like for you right now? What would courage feel like for you right now?
Yeah. Makes me think about like when I felt best on a field. I still play soccer. I never played in high school or college, but I picked it up because I wanted to like be active. And it's fun to be bad at something and learn how to do something. And I play golf, and I'm getting better and I can feel myself getting better. But I'm my best, and thinking back on my baseball career, I was best when I told myself I was the best player on the field. And I felt like I was the best player on the field. And I didn't carry myself like, hey, everybody look at me. Though like my teammates and people who I played against might say that. It was when I felt, yeah, I can do whatever I want to do on the field. And when I play soccer now, I'm like, oh, I'm the best player here. I'm not. But like, man, I can do this. That's like a trigger that I used. I know that feeling. And that's taken a lot of years to hone in on. And I think that might be helpful for some athletes listening of like, I see it as a feeling. I know what I feel like when I feel confident. I feel like loosened. I know what I'm prepared enough to do these things. Oh.
You brought up an interesting word that I think is valuable in this conversation. You used the phrase unconfident. And so we take unconfident and confident, and to think about how much that comes up in sport. That word comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when people sign up to work with me, that's one of the big, I want to work on my confidence. I want you to help me be more confident. And I would say this, oh no, don't hire me for that. And I'll tell you why. First of all, I think confidence is overrated and misunderstood.
Sure.
It's an emotion based on results. It's not a personality characteristic. When you're good at something, is it easier or harder to be confident? It's easier. When you're terrible at something, it's really damn hard to be confident. Confidence and competence are connected. So if confidence is an emotion, what I think is more powerful and more reliable is courage, because courage is an action. I can take action even though I have this emotion. I can choose a courageous action even when I lack confidence. And so I kind of heard what you were saying there about your soccer. It's like, you know what? I got this. You just did. Remember I said, name it, shift it, choose it. You did shift it. I got this. I can do this. I'm probably better at this than I think I am. I'm not as terrible as all my buddies tease me about. So you shifted it. And I think that there's so much power in that, because wouldn't it be great for athletes? It'd be like, okay, here comes the storm. All of the storms in sport are emotional. They are not physical. They're emotional. And here comes the storm, and we don't need confidence to get through the storm. Well, we can have it. I'm not opposed to confidence. I'm not opposed to it at all. But what if we had some tools? Name it, shift it, choose it. What if we would be like, okay, here comes the storm. Let me practice my courage. Would that allow us to show up differently in these big moments and even in the smaller moments?
These are fun. These conversations are fun because I get to think back on my career and kind of use that as like a template. And ultimately, it's somewhat educational for me as well in life outside of sport. And sport as identity. For the longest time, still am. I'm Jeremy, the baseball player. And as soon as I learned how to step away from that, I became much happier. I was much lighter because it didn't define me anymore.
Isn't that, I mean, that had to be freeing. There's
Yeah.
another F word, by the way, as we're talking
Yeah.
about F words. But I also feel like we do a disservice in sport, our sport culture, because we don't realize how much these athletes are tied to, I'm a basketball player, I'm a golfer, I'm a volleyball player, I'm a hockey player.
Hmm.
And they can't separate who they are from what they do. And this comes up a lot in my conversations. They can't separate I failed from I'm a failure. I made a mistake. I am a mistake. I lost. I'm a loser. So what I heard you say is you figured out to have some of that separation. Different, who I am is different than what I do. That is so huge, because when we don't figure that out, think about the roller coaster of our emotions. I did well today. I like me. I didn't do well today. I don't like me. And it really messes with our self-esteem and our self-worth, because the only times we can then feel good about ourselves is when we're successful. And
Mhm.
then we know how sport works. What percentage of the time are we successful? The higher it goes, the more elite it becomes. It's really hard to be great all the time. And so our self-worth and our self-esteem tends to take a beating when we cannot separate who we are from what we do.
Mhm. I wanted to close our discussion on freedom and the value of freedom and the power of freedom when it comes to performance and recovery and development and just mental, um, the power that each of us has when it comes to like our athletic ability. Um, in regards to freedom, what is it that that athletes should know about the feeling of freedom, and then the actual understanding of what that means for an athlete?
We have to do a whole nother podcast for that one, but I'll give you my Cole's Notes version as best I can. I'll start with this. When I ask athletes, so we talk about the F word, free and freedom. What does it mean to play freely? And I asked them, when was the last time you can remember playing freely? Some of them don't have very many memories of that, but the ones that do, they will say things. A hockey player, he's like, oh, every winter my parents would flood the backyard and the neighborhood would come over and we would just play shinny. We'd put a light so we could play when it was dark. And I said, why was there freedom in that? You probably know where the answer is going. Number one, there were no coaches and there were no parents. That was one thing. No scouts, no recruiters. And so when we get into that feeling of freedom, we also know that it comes also with a sense of joy. A sense of joy. Well, we don't get to just go play shinny in the backyard when our parents flood the rink, in January. We have real life sport experiences going on. If we were going to try to find freedom, this is what I believe is the basis. It's the ability to detach from the outcome. Doesn't that sound so like wooey, woo, woo, wooey, something out way out there? I don't know what the right word is. Detach from outcome when everything that we do in sport is measured by the outcome. And yet that's the thing that we're supposed to detach from. When I ask athletes, tell me the biggest thing that you're fearful of, because fear will always stop us from playing freely. So if we don't know what our deepest fear is, it's hard to go be free when we're playing. And they tell me my deepest fear is losing. That's my deepest fear. Failing, making mistakes, messing up. It's all the same thing. And what I say to them is, that's not quite true. I don't believe that our deepest fear is losing or messing up or making mistakes. I believe that our deepest fear is how we feel when those things happen. We fear our feelings. So losing is a thing. Making a mistake is a thing. I don't believe we're afraid of things. We're afraid of feelings. And when I tell this to athletes, they're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I know. And then I'm like, well, tell me some feelings that come. And one of the number one feelings that gets mentioned is the feeling of embarrassment. Our team got blown out. I missed a wide open net. I missed the last second shot. And then the feeling of embarrassment. And I'm like, okay, go underneath that. There's a level under that. What's the root? What's the root of embarrassment? It's the fear of disapproval. It's the fear of disapproval. Here's how I know. I was working with a hockey player. He's like, Shawnee, it's so embarrassing when I miss a wide open net. I said, okay, what if when you missed the wide open net, everyone in the arena stood up, gave you a standing ovation, shot confetti in the air, and paid you $1,000? This is what he says. I'd missed the net on purpose. He's 13 years old. I'm like, right, because you got approval for missing the net. We get disapproval, which is also a form of punishment. So if we could detach, what do we need to detach from? Whatever our deepest fear will always stop us from playing freely. An outcome is a big fear because we worry about what people are going to think when the thing that we don't want to happen, when that actually happens. What if we could teach our athletes this? Get up to the plate, the free throw line, the shootout, the starting line, whatever it is, and effing let her rip. And the chips will fall where they may. That last line, I think, opens the gate to the path to freedom, where the chips fall where they may. We cannot let the chips fall where they may unless we truly believe in our heart that no matter where the chips fall, I can handle it.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. That's something that we'll keep. That even is the story. That's the lesson. That's the whole ethos of I think what we're trying to do here, both you and me and Mind Ready, is allowing and giving athletes the tools to do that very thing. We want athletes to be successful on and off the field, but it comes down to like the foundations and the understanding of, okay, what does that look like, and how do I measure that, and what does that feel like? And I think you nailed it. I think that's it. So thank you.
You're welcome.